All right, I'm leaving the office a little bit later than I planned. That's okay though. No, it was a pretty hectic day. But I think what was really cool is like being at the office and actually getting to work with people on solving problems. So,
our role as a tarnished is actually pretty unique.
My phone was still is auto playing YouTube. I don't know why it does this. It's not a cool, not a cool phone feature to get connected to Bluetooth and then decide to start playing YouTube videos. The YouTube app isn't even open, so it like auto opens the YouTube app to play it. Anyway, yeah. So like completely. Kind of, I guess, like I would say it derailed my day in terms of what I had planned, but at the same time, being at the office was like the best thing for this type of thing, just because we got to put our heads together and work through some challenges. So definitely enjoyed that. It's funny, like I miss that kind of thing. So even when they're difficult problems or like you're not sure, like not sure like what the next step is and you're debugging things and whatever, it's just cool to be able to work with people through that kind of stuff. So yeah, genuinely miss that kind of interaction versus I feel like a lot of stuff over the past few years has been less of that and more, I don't know, like definitely, like, obviously there's challenges and different projects and problem solving, live site issues, whatever. You get the mix of things, but I do miss, like, sitting down in a room and just, like, working through challenges. So, yeah, it's a fun thing. It can be frustrating, it can be challenging, but I think in the end, like, probably a lot of software engineers enjoy that feeling of, like, look, got a problem to solve, we're stuck on it. How the heck do we make it work, right? So, yeah, that was pretty good. But yeah, it's a little later, so it's like 7:45 right now, so it was quite a long day. That's okay, though. So, the good news is the drive home should be pretty quick. Instead of saying 50 minutes, it only says 30 minutes. And we'll see. Also, probably jump into the fast lane just in case, but that's coming up. Okay, so this morning on the drive in, I was talking about caffeine, and I think that that's an interesting topic. And I've talked about this on live streams before, actually. So if you've watched some of my live streams, you might be familiar with. I don't want to say like my journey or like my story around caffeine and stuff, but I will share it because I think it's an interesting one. I don't know. So I don't like coffee. I'm not wildly opposed to it, but it's not my thing. Never really like acquired the taste for it. I think now if someone gave me a cup of coffee, I'm not going to like say, ew, like get out of here. Like if it's a source of caffeine, I'll drink it, I guess, but I don't have like milk and sugar in my coffee. If I travel somewhere and I need caffeine, like I'll have a black coffee, and if I can, I'll water it down or cool it down just so I can drink it fast to get caffeine. Like I don't drink it because I enjoy it. I will drink it if I need caffeine. So where am I going with this story? So if we go back to my younger days, it actually kind of stems from bodybuilding. So for me, going to the gym, like 6 to 7 days a week, this is not anymore. Actually, at the beginning of this year, I kind of dialed back going to the gym. So I'm only going like maybe 4 times a week max now. I'm just prioritizing different things in my life. But especially earlier on and going through university, when I started looking into getting like pre-workout to go to the gym, right? Like, okay, I want to have a good lift. I want to make sure that I'm, supplementing and doing whatever I can to be better in the gym and have a better workout. I realized like buying pre-workout is so expensive, right? If you do the math on it, sometimes it's like $1, $2 per workout just to be able to say I have caffeine. I know, like, you're paying for these other things in the supplements, but like the thing that really makes a difference is the caffeine. Like, that's really all that matters. And I'll just say it outright. Like, I don't really been working out for a long time, and I've tried lots of different supplements, and I will tell you, like, creatine, and you don't need that for like a pre-workout effect. That has positive effects. And caffeine, everything else is basically just kind of like, it's not that there's zero benefit, but like, man, you're literally just wasting money when you don't really need to be. Spend your money on like a better cut of meat or better vegetables or something. I don't know. Like, you don't need all this other stuff. Like, caffeine is what makes your pre-workout your pre-workout. So, me being the way that I am, I'm like, it doesn't make sense for me to be blowing money like that on pre-workout. Like, that just doesn't make sense. So, I went looking and I started basically sourcing the ingredients for pre-workout. And the one ingredient that I really care about is caffeine. So, I found that I could buy caffeine powder in bulk. And if you haven't gone looking for it, it's like harder to get now, but caffeine is incredibly cheap. It's absurdly cheap for like what you can get. So I could buy, and I have bought like pound bags of caffeine powder. And if you consider that a serving is like, say, like 200 milligrams, like a pound of caffeine will last you a very, very long time. A pound is like 452 or something grams, right? So multiply that by 5, and that's how many servings you have of 200 milligrams. It's nuts. So it lasts you a very long time. So start my journey off, I'm in university, and I'm like, okay, for my pre-workout, I now have a solution. It's the cheapest thing I could possibly do for pre-workout because I just have caffeine powder. It's awesome. And over time, just started to be like a thing where it's like, especially starting work, right? I have my caffeine powder for my pre-workout, and then it started to be like, well, I don't drink coffee in the morning, so I'll have some caffeine. And okay, well, now during the day, like, I just want to be sipping on something because I don't drink coffee at work. I'd like some caffeine. So it went from being like a 200 milligram serving for the gym to 200 milligrams for the gym, 200 milligrams in the morning, and then I might sip like another 200 milligrams during the day. But maybe I'm going to sip 400 milligrams during the day. So I kind of get to this point where I'm up to like 800 milligrams of caffeine in a day over the years that I'm drinking it, which is quite a bit. But the problem doesn't like stop there because over time, and we're talking over like I don't know, it's been 10, I'm trying to think because it's going back a few years now. About 8 years, maybe 8 to 10 years of doing this, right? Where I'm kind of building up how much caffeine I'm having in a day. When I started dating my wife, my girlfriend at the time, when we started dating, I realized, like, I would go, drive to visit her and stay there for the weekend, and I would wake up on like a Saturday and I was like, I don't think I can get out of bed. Like, I'm exhausted. And I would, I'd wake up for breakfast or something, and then like after like an hour or so, I'm like, I need to nap. I'm dead tired. And it was so weird because I'm like, why? Like, why do I feel like this? In hindsight, I think it's because like I wasn't driving to her house and bringing, a supply of like 800 milligrams of caffeine per day. Like, I'm not bringing caffeine powder with me everywhere I'm going. So I started to realize, like, I got a problem. Like, I'm unable to stay awake effectively. So I didn't realize this at the time, though, right? Like, I wasn't really equating it to caffeine. So anyway, we fast forward a little bit. We're living together. We move out to Washington, and I'm working remotely, and still kind of doing my caffeine thing. So this is over the past now 4 years, and I started to realize, like, what was happening when I'm working remotely is I'm like, man, I'm getting tired during the day, and I'm still having my 800 milligrams of caffeine. So like I'm gonna have to like nap over my lunch break. So like eat really quick, go have my nap, and get back to work. So I was doing this for, not every day, but like a couple times a week. And again, one of the benefits of working from home, just have my bed there, it's great. And then it started to be, I need more than one nap. So I'm having my 800 milligrams of caffeine, having a quick nap at lunch, and then I might have to nap after work as well. So now I'm having 2 naps a day some days, and my 800 milligrams of caffeine. And I'm like, something's not right. Like, I don't feel okay about this. And I know from talking with my wife, especially from like bodybuilding and weight fluctuation, I was trying to put on a bunch of weight for just getting bigger for bodybuilding. And I said, you know what's got to be happening? I must have sleep apnea, because it would explain a lot. So if you're not familiar with sleep apnea, I'm not an expert by any means, but basically when you're having an apnea during your sleep, you're basically like, you're suffocating briefly. You're not getting oxygen in. And that's not a good spot for a vehicle. Anyway, okay. So it's not like you can have apnea episodes during the night, and it's actually like a common thing that happens. But when you have sleep apnea, you have to have over a certain number of apneas per minute, I guess, or whatever it is, per hour. I don't know what the measure is, but you have a certain number of these events that occur, and that essentially affects your blood oxygen level during your sleep. So when that happens, you end up having bad quality sleep, and then as a result, you are tired the next day. So sleep apnea is pretty scary, because you can literally over time cause brain damage. Like literally. So, if you're concerned that you might have sleep apnea, you should go get checked out. It's worth looking into. But I was convinced. I'm like, I'm getting really tired. I've been putting on weight. What can happen is, as you're getting heavier, even if it was 100% muscle, which is not the case, if it was even, like, as your neck gets bigger, just from being bigger overall, it can make it literally harder for you to sleep comfortably and breathe clearly. So I'm convinced it's sleep apnea at this point. And so I go for a sleep test. I schedule a sleep test, and they say, no problem. We'll also do like a nap study, which I thought was kind of funny. So, the next day, if they need to, you stay and you do these naps. So I go for the sleep test, and the next day they tell me, they're like, look, you actually had like very few apneas. Your blood oxygen throughout the night was almost perfect. Like, you don't got sleep apnea. That's not what's going on here. So, okay, interesting. Like, not what I expected. And they said, we did talk about the nap study, so we're going to keep you for the nap study. I said, okay, so basically lose a day of work, but, it's for medical reasons, so let's figure this out. So the nap study, I think the way it worked was that I had to do 5 naps and try to do 5 naps. And I should explain the room that you sleep in, because it might not be obvious if you've never done one of these, but it's a pitch black room and there is no sound. So you might say that sounds great, but it's so dark. It's so dark that it's almost scary, because you can't see your hand in front of your face. I've never been in a room that was so dark in my life. Like, absolutely fascinating how dark this room is. So when I go to do my nap, you know, it's like 30 minutes after I woke up in the morning. I'm like, I woke up. I'm not tired. So we'll see how this goes. So I lie down for my nap. They turn off the lights and stuff, and it's pitch black. And I just remember lying there, and I'm like, man, I can't fall asleep. And you probably have done this before, where you're like dreading the fact that you're not sleeping, and you start to get anxious about not sleeping. And I was like, oh, I'm screwing up this test, like, no good. And then, you know, after a little bit, they come back into the room, turn on the lights, and then they ask you questions. So they go, okay, how long do you think it took you to fall asleep? How long do you think you slept for? How many times do you think you woke up? Whatever, you know, just kind of surveying you. They collect that information, you wait like 30 minutes, and then they repeat the whole thing. And you do this like 5 times. So at the end of the day, I remember we were reviewing things, and I was kind of saying like, hey, like, I thought it, you know, here's what I thought. It kind of was embarrassing. I didn't go to sleep. Anyway, so they're kind of laughing at that. But when we finally went over the results, they said, so for every time that I had to go down for a nap, they said, you did in fact go to sleep every single time, which I thought was impossible because I thought I was awake the entire first nap. And they said, in fact, you fell asleep within 30 seconds to a minute for every single nap. So not only did I sleep every time, but I fell asleep almost instantly. So they said, for people that are sleep deprived, usually what they see is that the first nap you take, because you're sleep deprived, your body is like, okay, we got to catch up on sleep, and like we're gonna crash for this and get whatever sleep we can. And they said usually people that are sleep deprived, that happens, and then every single other nap after that, their body kind of got what it needed, and that's it. They said the fact that I napped every single time solid and fell asleep almost instantly, they said that's not sleep deprivation, that's narcolepsy. So I was diagnosed with narcolepsy. Now, they didn't say there's any cause or anything, or like, you know, I don't know, like it's a disease or like it's genetic or anything like that. There's no explanation for it, just like this is what we observe. So, okay, so not a whole lot of options. And it's not, I think some people hear narcolepsy and they've seen things in like movies and media where they're like, oh, so you just fall asleep randomly. So like me just driving here, I would just pass out or something. Like, that's not the case. That's not what narcolepsy is, but I think it's portrayed that way in like movies and cartoons or whatever, just because it's like more interesting, I guess. So I can't remember the name of the chemical or the hormone, whatever, but the thing that signals to your body like whether or not you're tired, and like that, it's kind of like nothing's really inhibiting that effectively, or it's overproducing or something. So that's kind of what I got to deal with. So I go, okay, now I got to really try and correct what's going on here, because if I have narcolepsy, I need to figure out how to get like, how do I get better sleep? How do I not stay like tired all the time? Can't possibly be having more caffeine. So sort of researching some things, and I'm not a doctor, right? Obviously. I'm just a dude in the car with a camera that likes to do software engineering. And when I was watching some videos and reading about caffeine, I heard something that was very interesting that kind of changed my perspective on things, because I could have 200 milligrams of caffeine and go lie down and go to bed. Like, caffeine at 200 milligrams does not get me wired. Caffeine at 200 milligrams just keeps me at baseline, which sounds kind of scary to say. So I was like, I don't get it. Like, it can't be caffeine. But what I had read and watched about caffeine was suggesting that just because you fall asleep fast with caffeine, like if caffeine's in your body, doesn't mean that the quality of your sleep is there. In fact, having caffeine in your system while you sleep, apparently, I'm not a doctor, but apparently is going to give you a very poor quality of sleep. So I said, okay, I got to do something about my caffeine intake. I got to start correcting this, and decided that I'm going to make changes for it. So to start things off, I wanted to plan to reduce my caffeine intake, and I wanted to plan to eventually try to have my caffeine intake finished before 3 p.m. And that way when I go to sleep at like 11, it's basically out of my system, and that way I can have a good sleep. So I decided that I was going to, I can't remember why this came up, but I took my caffeine scoop and I measured the amount of caffeine for my 200 milligram caffeine scoop. And I had a little bit of a surprise, because my 200 milligram caffeine scoop is actually 300 milligrams. So I've been having 50% more caffeine for over a decade than I thought, which means when I say that I was getting up to 800 milligrams of caffeine, more like at least 1,200 milligrams of caffeine every day, throughout the day, including up until when I go to bed. And did I mention for like over a decade? So I went, oh crap, I'm pretty convinced, and again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I quite literally have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to rationalize my body. And I said, oh crap, I think that I've kind of made myself narcoleptic. I don't even know if that's possible, but I feel like I've created the symptoms for this. So that really made me go, okay, Nick, you got to start making changes. So earlier this year, I started trying to dial down my caffeine. And the ways that I started doing this is I said, I don't actually need caffeine for my workout. I like it, but I don't need it. I certainly don't need it. Workouts for me, I'm excited to go. I'm happy to go. I like to work hard. I'm not going first thing in the morning when I'm asleep. So like, I can go lift weights and be good. So I'm going to stop having because it was sometimes getting up to 400 milligrams of caffeine for my workout. So I'm going to stop that. That's a big chunk out. And I cut it out, easy. Didn't care, didn't notice it. It just meant that my pre-workout was like I was just having water and some flavoring, right? Maybe some amino acids or something, whatever. So that one was easy, but we still got a long way to go. And because my workouts were in the evening, that meant that I could cut out a source of caffeine at night, which was good. But over the next few months from that, I had to start dialing down the caffeine intake more and more. So I went from truly having like, over a gram of caffeine every day throughout the day. I'm now finally down to like 400 milligrams of caffeine, which is still, a lot for some people. But I've genuinely noticed that now that I'm down to this amount, like I don't feel like I need to take naps. So I feel like it's made a tremendous improvement for me. There are still days after like one-on-ones for the whole day, like I need a nap. There's still days where I'm like, maybe I didn't sleep well, I need a nap. But I don't need it for working out anymore. I think now I can confidently say, like, there's been days now where I prepare my caffeine to take in for the day, and sometimes, like, I've only had 300 milligrams before 3, and, like, I don't care. Like, I don't need to go chug the rest of my caffeine to make sure I can stay awake for the rest of the day. So I just wanted to kind of say this because it took literally months before I could get that better for myself. So, yeah, kind of crazy. Now, my sleep is still pretty screwed up. Like, I basically go into REM sleep, like, right away. And this has been happening for at least, like, 8 years, at least. probably closer to 10. But so maybe this part's unrelated. But when I go to sleep at night, I close my eyes when I lie down in bed. When I fall asleep, I go into REM sleep immediately because I have extremely vivid dreams, like vivid enough that I can lucid dream and like basically walk around doing whatever I want in my dreams, like as soon as I fall asleep. And what happens is, I might sleep like that for 20 minutes, 15 minutes or something, and I wake up. This happens every night, by the way, wide awake. I feel wide awake, and I'm like, okay, like you just did the thing where you had your vivid dreams, go back to sleep. Fortunately, I fall asleep pretty quick, the narcolepsy stuff, so that's cool. But I go from feeling wide awake to like, okay, Nick, force yourself to sleep. And I'm sure I fall asleep very quick, so whatever. And then sometimes I'll have a couple episodes of that where I might have very vivid dreams and wake up a couple times. But yeah, my point is just like if that pattern happens a lot, that can really be disruptive for my sleep. Like I might lose an hour of sleep in a night because I'm doing this like very vivid dreaming type of thing. Now I'm sure someone could say, because I'm not a doctor, I don't know, they might say, hey, that vivid REM sleep is actually fine, you're still resting and recovering, and that's totally cool. But so I don't know, but I personally feel like less rested when that happens. So maybe it's the little episodes in between where I wake up very wide awake. So anyway, caffeine's a hell of a drug. But that's been my caffeine journey. So yeah, I'm finally down to 300 to 400 milligrams in a day. I feel better with regards to sleep, more energy. And I don't know, like as you heard that, like did that make sense? I feel like to me it checks out. Like again, I'm not a doctor, but if you're having a ton of caffeine and then it's affecting the quality of your sleep, because apparently literally it does if it's in your system, the next day you're gonna need caffeine again because you're not sleeping well, and you just keep doing this over and over. And like I said, it was like over a decade of doing it. So to me, it makes logical sense. I have no idea if that's actually the reality of how my body works, but it makes sense to me. So anyway, I like caffeine. I think it's good. But I got to be careful about just having too much. Like I don't need to be having that much all the time. So it's actually kind of nice because there's been a couple of times where, say like, was really busy and doing something on a Friday and I still have to write my newsletter that goes out. There's been times where like I will take caffeine late and I'm making a conscious decision where I'm like, look, either bad planning or unfortunate circumstances, I need to stay up to do this newsletter, and I'll have caffeine at 9, 10 o'clock at night, like 200 milligrams. And now it's cool because it actually works. Instead of just being like a zombie still, I take it and I go, there we go, like that'll keep me up. So I can use it opportunistically, which is nice. Whereas for a long time, it was just like, you keep putting more caffeine in me and it's just keeping me awake basically. So I'm definitely happy with the caffeine journey. I'm kind of moving away from being so dependent on it, but I don't think it's ever going to be, I'm never going to stop having caffeine. I think it's helpful. I just have to do it carefully. Someone's coming behind me. Get out of here, man. Okay. And now my whole parking job's messed up. Gotta do a 3-point turn to get in my own driveway. Because what happens is like, if I pull onto this road, sometimes if people pull up right behind me, there's just not enough time I have to like, I can't even explain it. It's too difficult. I don't have the words, but I'm basically positioning where I have to turn left to back in first. So I pull left and then back in after, and that pulling left, people are like, what the hell is this person doing? So that's what just happened. Anyway, caffeine, do recommend Just not a lot of it. Take care.